This episode is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Turn your ideas into reality with an Azure free account. Get everything you need to develop apps across cloud and hybrid environments, scale workloads, create cloud-connected mobile experiences, and so much more. Discover what you can create with popular services free for 12 months. Learn more at azure.com. That's AZURE.com. And sign up for a free account to start building in the cloud today.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Red, your lunchtime catch-up on all things Liverpool FC on Friday, August 30th, which is deadline day, and we are, I think, just under 8 hours from the transfer window easing shut. And it looks like Liverpool are not going to do anything else. I don't really know what the thought process is, what the logic is. A lot of players have left. Thiago, Adrian, Matip, Muzalewski, Fraundorf, Lewis, Arrego, Kimetio. None of them were ever going to make the first team, those 5 youngsters. Carvalho sold, Clark sold, Vandenberg sold, and Harvey Blair sold. We've also loaned out Calvin Ramsey, Fabian Rosic, Luke Chambers, Lewis Kumas, Lucas Stevenson, Reece Williams, Owen Beck, Mamardashvili. We'll come back to him. Callum Scanlon is gone on loan to Millwall, and it looks like today we'll get confirmation that Stefan Bajcetic is joining Red Bull Salzburg on loan. And the only incomings we have are Georgi Mamardashvili, who's gone on loan for the year, and Federico Chiesa. And that's it. That's it. 2 really good players, without question. Like, really, really good players. Mamardashvili's the best young keeper in the world, and Chiesa's outstanding. Yes, he's got the post-ACL concerns, but he's an outstanding footballer. And in a vacuum, they're both really good signings. At the value we got them for as well, 35 million. Potentially rising to 41.5. Like, that's really good business. And the sales are really good business. 20 million rising to 27.5 for Carvalho, 10 for Clark, 20 rising to 25 for Vandenberg, and 300 grand rising to 600 grand for Harvey Blair. Like, that's really good business as well. All of the loans are sensible in terms of none of them are players that were going to play. None of them are players that were seen as being, anywhere close to first team ready. So all of that makes sense. The issue is we had 2 glaring needs, and we haven't addressed either of them. And even if you want to just pass over the issue at left back and just say, well, let's give Robbo another year, which, I mean, fair enough. but there's no passing over the issue at 6. And the thing is, we know that the club for years now has identified this as a position of need. That's undeniable. Aurelien Tchouameni in the summer of 2022, Romeo Lavia and Moises Caicedo in the summer of 2023, and Martin Zubimendi in the summer of 2024. All players we have tried to sign, all players we have failed to sign. Now, for differing reasons, of course. We didn't get Tchouameni because Real Madrid came in for him. We didn't get Lavia because we pricked around for too long on that deal. We didn't get Caicedo because his agent's a scumbag. We didn't get Zubimendi because he likes mountains or something. But the thing is, there aren't just 4 defensive midfielders out there that have been good enough for us. It's simply not the case. And we have passed up really good opportunities to sign really good defensive midfielders over the last 3 years. 3 years we've been trying to fill this position. And they seem to expect that we'll believe that Martin Zubimendi is, at least from a public point of view, the only one they could have gone for this summer. Like, it's just utter nonsense. Complete and utter nonsense. And I'm sure we'll get the usual piece from James Pearce, the inside story on Liverpool's transfer window, despite the fact he hasn't had a Scooby all summer. Liverpool couldn't find value or didn't believe there was value. Just bullshit. It's just bullshit. Sometimes you just have to overpay. It's that simple. Sometimes you have to overpay. And ultimately, this window must go down as a failure. Because while the business that was done was good, it was not nearly enough. And it didn't address the 2 positions of need that we had in our squad. We've also now got a situation where we've got a couple of players who don't really want to be at the club, but they're going to keep. Because they couldn't get players in. Because they pricked around for too long on 1 or 2 deals that just were never going to be possible this summer. Or at least it appears they were never going to be possible this summer. We did get a flurry of excitement last night when 2 very credible Argentine journalists tweeted out about Liverpool and Varela. One of whom is followed on Instagram by Varela, who regularly likes his posts. And there seems to be a relationship between them. He was the first one to tweet it out. And then he was followed by someone that works for the same outlet as him and that had a little bit more info. And then there was a third Argentine that said similar. And then there was a Portuguese report that we had tried, but that Porto weren't going to sell him for less than the release clause. And that does track with some of what certain people have said, that there was an offer put in, but it was an installments offer, and that they said no to it. But nothing more seems to have come from that. Or at least as things stand now, 3:20. So ultimately we're going into another season undercooked. We don't have a defensive midfielder worth a damn, and we're weak at left back. Now the left back thing, again, we can carry that if Virgil stays fit and plays really well, if Ibu stays fit and plays really well, and if Trent stays fit and plays really well, at least 3/4 of the back four will be elite. We've also got the best keeper in the world, so we can carry a weak left back. But it would have been an awful lot easier to do that if we'd actually addressed the biggest need, which is that defensive midfielder. I don't want to hear that there was no value. They didn't feel there was options. There was options. There's always options. Now, if it's a case where the top 2 targets or top 3 targets were Zubimendi, Boubacar Kamara, and Cheick Doucouré, and with Kamara being out with a torn ACL and Cheick Doucouré just back from a torn Achilles, they weren't willing to risk on those, or they had to wait on. They weren't willing to wait on Doucouré. They were willing to wait on Kamara and weren't willing to risk on Doucouré without seeing what he looks like post Achilles tear. Then at least that does kind of make sense. But ultimately, you're going to wait on 2 players that may not be good enough post-injury rather than addressing it now? With a player you clearly like, a player that we tracked last summer, and a player that, according to these Argentine reports, who I'd be inclined to believe, given what we've seen when we tried to buy when we did buy Diaz and we did buy Darwin, was that the South Americans were far more tuned in on what was going on than the local journalists, who either didn't know or weren't allowed to report what they knew.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
That joy was shut down by Jimbo last night, obviously. Now, look, Jimbo also said we weren't going to sign Mamardashvili. Jimbo also said we weren't signing Luis Diaz. So he doesn't necessarily come with the most bulletproof credibility on these things. And there is a school of thought that after what happened with Zubimendi, where it became so public and then was so embarrassing when he decided that mountains were the most important thing in his life, that maybe they wanted to just keep things under wrap. But as we sit here now, 16 hours later, and there's been nothing further, it does appear like there's just nothing there, or nothing's going to happen. So we go into the season underprepared. And that's not ideal. And then, of course, you've got the elephants in the room. And it's 3 of them in one room. So imagine how cramped it is. You've got the Virgil contract, you've got the Trent contract, and you've got the Mo contract. Now, as I said all summer, they don't need to be done before the end of the transfer window. They can be done in September and October. And them not being done should not in any way change people's view of what's happened this summer, because they're not connected to it. They're separate. Although, as Eddie Gibbs pointed out, you'd have to imagine Virgil, who's said we need signings, is looking at the situation and thinking, well, why have you not made any signings, lads? What's going on here? So it would have probably been a lot easier to convince them to stay without having to overpay them in their mind, not the players' minds, in the minds of the club, because the club will have sort of set parameters on what they want to pay. It would have been easier to get them within what your range of pay would be, rather than if you'd signed players and shown them, look, yeah, we've addressed this issue, we've addressed that issue, we've got this completed squad, we feel like we're ready to go and win a league, win a Champions League. Instead, what are you saying to them? Oh yeah, we've got to wait again. There's just no excuse for that. There's no excuse at all. You've had all fucking summer. And look, I know there was a shitload to do. There was far more to do, and they got far more done than people gave them credit for. They got the new manager, they got the new coaching staff, they rebuilt the medical staff, rebuilt the analytics department, rebuilt the analyst team. All of that had to be done. And all of that was done. But ultimately, fans don't care. Fans want to see the on-pitch. And you're going to go out on the pitch without a holding midfielder and with a weak point at left back, both of which you had all summer to address. Both of which had multiple players out there. Whether you wanted an attacking left back or the more defensive left back, there were plenty of options out there. Plenty of options. And it'll be easy afterwards to turn around and say, oh, well, they wanted Aid Nouri, but after Neto left and Kilman left. Bullshit. Aid Nouri could have been done in June if he was the one you knew you wanted. He could have been done long before the Neto deal. And then maybe they don't sell Neto. So that one could have been done. Milos Kerkez could have been an option. You definitely had some talks with Bournemouth around the Mamardashvili thing. What if we shift him to you for a year and then we take him, blah, blah, blah. You couldn't have brought him up in that? Couldn't have got that deal done? The more defensive-minded left-backs, I mean, I just don't know. Like, there was a load of options out there. You passed on Calafiori, maybe because of the injuries, but then you signed Chiesa, so I'm curious as to what the real logic was. Could have got Hincapié, he's been available most of the summer. Could have got Inacio, he has a buyout. Maybe you got obsessed with the idea of Jared Brantwaite or Castillo Luqueba, but those were always going to be really tough deals to do. And really, really expensive deals to do. Murillo's been sitting at Forest. Forest have wanted a goalkeeper all summer. Weaving Callagher wants out. Couldn't have approached him and said, look, here's the offer. Cash and Callagher. We know you've got financial fair play issues. Here you go. I do note that Forest today are signing Morato from Benfica, a left-footed left-side centre-back. Now, it could just be as cover for Murillo. Maybe it's future-proofing against Murillo leaving, even though he's a few years older than Murillo. He's a good player. But Murillo was there, and I'm near certain Forest would have sold if given a good offer, because they're in a pretty weak spot financially. Instead, we've done nothing. And then since then, you've just sort of floated around, inquired about this player and that player and the other player. All these inquiries should have been done in June and July. And I get that there was a lot to do. And I get that you were behind the eight ball from the start. Because normally, for the summer of 2024, you'd have started your preparation work at the end of summer 2023. And normally, for summer 2025, you'd be starting your prep work on Monday. But now you've got to start prep work for January. It's going to take a while to get yourselves back in the right sort of time loop. Ultimately, this window is a failure. Unless in the next 7.5 hours, they pull something out of their arses. And I don't think anybody's confident anymore. There's one or two people still suggesting that they're fairly certain someone's coming in, but I mean, at this point, seems very, very unlikely. Unless it's like the ultimate Fabinho type of transfer, where you've somehow managed to keep it under wraps all this time. It's just not happening, is it? And deals do get done on deadline day. They happen all the time. There'll be a flurry of deals that happen today. But we almost seem to be like looking at our defensive midfield position, where we have 2 5 out of 10 options in Endo and Gravenberch. And we almost seem to be looking at it and thinking, well, we could get a 7 out of 10, but we want a 9 out of 10. So we're just not going to do anything. Even though there is upgrades, easy upgrades out there, clear upgrades out there, that long-term could become those 9 out of 10s, but short-term will be more 7 out of 10. There's other long-term options or short-term options out there, like loans, Fabian Ruiz, Locatelli maybe. Again, they'd be 7 out of 10 options. They're much better than what we have at the moment, but they're not quite good enough. So you'd rather go in short-handed than go in less than perfect. Like, it's just such a stupid way to operate. It's such a short-sighted way to operate. You're just throwing away another season. It's bad enough we've thrown away last season, the season before, in 2021. Like, you have this really unique situation where you've got Alisson, Virgil and Mo in their primes, still absolutely elite performers. And A, 2 of them are out of contract next summer. B, you've actually bought the replacement for the third. And C, you're just throwing away years in their prime. And I get that you back yourself to find the next Virgil, the next Mo, and you believe you found the next Alisson. I get that. But ultimately, it's still wasting years of genuinely great players to go in without what you need. On AnfieldIndex.com today, we have a bunch of new articles and a bunch of new podcasts. So Nat Phillips has secured a loan move to Derby County. Like, I mean, just fuck off at this. Not Nat, the club. Like, what's the point? What's the point in sending them out on another loan? I understand Championship is his level. Everybody understands that. Except the club, who seem to think there's some Premier League club or someone else out there willing to pay 10 or 12 million for a fella who realistically is worth between 4 and 6 million. But who also realistically is out of contract next summer. It wouldn't have been better to get 2 or 3 million in now, or 2 months ago when there was interest, as opposed to just letting him go on loan and he'll leave next summer. Though I wouldn't be at all surprised if we hear a report that he signed a 1-year extension. Not even a little bit of surprise would I feel if that happened. Lewis Steele has talked up our transfer business. There is a piece about Varela, a piece about Ben Doak going on loan. Oh, our Champions League draw was made yesterday. I genuinely can't be arsed. Federico Chiesa, the first LFC interview. There's a piece about Arne Slot's press conference. There is Molby on the spot with Trev and Jan. And there is there 2 press conference pods? I'm not sure. Maybe there's 2 press conference pods? I don't know. There's a Pro Plus, and then there's a podcast expert. I'm not sure. I'm a bit confused. Right, I'm just going to leave it there, folks. I'm fucking fed up. I will be the angry one on Raw on Sunday, regardless of the result. So I'll see you then. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.